Hi guys, welcome to week 4 of Public Relations Principles. It is Dr. Jessica Freeman, and as you can tell, a very sleepy Norton is joining me for the video today. So I just wanted to do a quick update first of what is coming up. This will be my last video just because next week is all about wrapping up and turning things in. There's really not any new content to discuss. But of course, as always, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know if you're having any questions or concerns as you finish up your last couple of assignments. So the first reminder today is that quiz 3 is up. It's due again on Wednesday. That's tomorrow, Wednesday, June 20th. So please make sure that that is completed. When I looked earlier, there were still a lot of you who had not taken that. So please do so because it will go away tomorrow night. Along with that, your last case study 4, is due this Friday, June 22nd. So make sure that you have completed that as well. That'll be the last one of those. And then finally, don't forget, again, this being the last video, I want to remind you that your last quiz, your quiz 4, is going to be due Wednesday, June 27th, right? June 27th. So that is a week from Wednesday. And I just wanted to remind you of that because I know as you're finishing up your final project, it can be easy to forget those kinds of things. The second thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is your press kit. And please keep in mind that that is coming up. It's going to be due at the very end of the class, and make sure that you have looked at dates for that as well. Make sure that you have indeed checked when everything is due and you've gone through that check sheet that is up and available on D2L for you, and make sure that everything's there before you upload it. A couple of things. Remember that the press release for the press kit, number 1. A couple of hints with that. The first thing is that you should go back to the PowerPoint that I posted on media writing that has the example on it of a press release, and look at the formatting first and foremost. Formatting, especially in a press release, does matter. A press release, if you've taken news writing, I like to say, is nothing more than an inverted pyramid story with a bunch of other formatting things attached. So make sure when you are doing that press release that you do include the elements that make it a press release, like the date line, the contact info, a nice header that you hopefully can make look a little bit designed, and then also the boilerplate, right? Remember that that boilerplate is going to be a piece, like a little paragraph that you literally could lift and put in another press release a year from now. It has no timeliness, but it basically describes what is this company, what is it in a paragraph, what is some information that if I get a press release from you and I'm like, who are these people? It explains that in a quick paragraph. Oftentimes it'll give an overview of the company, maybe when it was founded, what kind of products it creates, that kind of stuff. So make sure that that is there, and then make sure that the little hashtag sign at the end are there to indicate the end of the content. All that kind of stuff should be there. I would recommend trying to keep the press release to 1 page if you can, because we remember that with press releases, as the PowerPoint did show you, less is better. When you get to a second page, it gets lost, quite frankly. So try to write tight, condense as much as possible, and do make sure that you keep that really short if possible. You also, though, want to include all the necessary information. And one thing that I really want to tell you about this is I'll be looking for your ability to identify the news value here. And remember that with the assignment is to, you have this hypothetical situation where you are launching a new product during the Christmas season. And I'll give you a hint that in that first paragraph, remember that the first 3 letters of news are it spells new. And so the newest or most interesting information should be highlighted in that first sentence and certainly in that first paragraph. That's going to show the news value, right, to the reporter who might end up with this press release. So tell me, okay, in that first paragraph, why is this product novel? Why is this something that I need to know about now? Here's a hint, it's a new product, right? And so those kinds of things should be emphasized in the first paragraph, the lead of the press release. Along with this, with the press release and all of the other documents, formatting does matter. And so you want this document, along with all of the documents that you turn in, to feel as branded as possible, to feel as designed and as formal as possible. Again, I know this is not a design class, and all of you come from different design backgrounds. I don't expect you to necessarily use very kind of extensive software like InDesign and so forth. That's great if you can, but there's still a lot that you can do even within Microsoft Word, right? That can make this, all of the documents kind of feel cohesive, make them feel branded. You can use colors and fonts and pictures throughout that will make this feel like a branded document that came from a company, and that is important. So please make sure that with everything that you turn in for that press kit, it all feels very cohesive, that it all feels very nice looking and branded. Some other pieces of information about the press kit, some hints. The pictures, remember that you have to include at least one picture of the product. Now, I highly recommend that you have more than one because it does, make it a lot more visually appealing and digestible to the eye. So make sure that you have at least one picture though, and you again don't have to take that picture. I don't expect that you're going to go buy the product yourself and take the picture, though it's great if you do. But the pictures can come from online, but I'm just looking to see that you plug them in throughout, that they make sense as far as the design goes, and that they're there to kind of make this again feel branded and to feel nicely designed. Along with that, you have the assignment as part of the press kit to write a Q&A. And when you were doing the Q&A for this, I want you to basically put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. I want you to think about what would the consumer need to know if they're thinking about buying this product, right? It's a novel, kind of weird product. So what are some things that you, if you were buying this, would have questions about? And so let me give you an example. A few semesters ago, I had a group that turned in this project, and they did it around an alarm clock that literally jumps off of your nightstand, and you have to go chasing it, right? And get up out of bed to turn it off. So it was this kind of jumping alarm clock. And some questions I would have had if I were buying this alarm clock, putting myself in the consumer shoes for the Q&A, would be number one, what is this alarm clock made of? How do I know that it's not going to break itself or something else as it jumps around? Does it have some sort of sensor so that it doesn't bump into things and break my stuff? How does it work in general? Those are some questions that a Q&A could help a consumer out with as part of a press kit. And then finally, looking at a fact sheet, right? You also have to compile a fact sheet. Now, realize that the fact sheet may have some overlap as far as some information that could overlap with the Q&A or the press release, but it should be its own standalone document and have its own information. All of these require some good research on your part on the product. But the fact sheet, think about it as far as what it's going to include. It's going to just be an overview of the product itself and perhaps the company. So you can include information about the product overview, but as well as that, information about the company, maybe who its CEO is, maybe when the company was founded, what other types of products or services that they sell or provide, and just some basic product basics. You don't want it to overlap too much with the Q&A, and I could see how it would. So try to make that its own standalone document, right? Okay, so that's pretty much it as far as the press kit is concerned. Make sure that you put all of that stuff in a PDF format, right? It needs to be converted to PDF before you turn it in so that I can make sure that it looks the same to me as it would on your computer. Okay. So that being said, you guys also completed, and I want to wrap up today by talking a little bit about your case study 3, which was basically asking you to look at two different situations with the South Dakota State University PD, right? And their tweet that looked at a student who had left a note on their car, and they kind of very humorously handled it by educating people about the services that the police department offers, and then contrasting that with a tweet that was put out by the Fort Worth Police Department. That's in Fort Worth, Texas, where I happen to be from. I saw this in the news a while back. And the Fort Worth Police Department tweeted about an incident that happened at Wendy's restaurant where allegedly some of their officers were denied service, right? And so I asked you guys to think about these two different sort of approaches to social media by two different police departments in two different contexts. So some things that you guys said, you were a little bit mixed on how SDSU handled their tweet. Most of you did say that you agreed that with the situation at hand, SDSU's tweet was certainly professional enough. Most of you said that. A few of you are like, I don't know if this is really what a police department should be doing with its Twitter. But most of you said that it was kind of on brand, meaning that SDSU Police Department has sort of made part of its brand putting out these sort of humorous, educational, sort of funny comedic tweets to connect with its student population so that it is in line with what they have been doing. It is on brand in that way. Some of you said that it was really good that SDSU was trying to connect in this comedic way because it made the police department seem, and I'm quoting some of you, not heartless, available to help. They were using this as an educational opportunity. We all love opportunity in PR. And that SDSU has been known, or on campus, right? Their big job is giving out tickets and not necessarily making students happy. And so for some students, they're known as the bad guys, and that this could be a nice way, reputation management wise, to help correct some of that reputation they have. Along with that, there was certainly a mixed bag on the contrasting that situation to the one with the Fort Worth Police Department and Wendy's response. Most of you did sort of agree that Wendy's was out of line. Some of you did say that certainly they could deny service to anybody, but most of you did feel that Wendy's was out of line. However, most of you did say that Wendy's needed to step it up a little bit as far as their PR went. Several of you pointed out that Wendy's didn't really look like they were too sorry, that they were too sympathetic with the situation. And what didn't help was that they were unavailable. Their spokesperson was unavailable for comment for the article. And it is, we know, one of the jobs of a PR practitioner in a crisis situation, and I would call this a mini crisis, certainly, because it did go viral. I would argue that they should have probably made themselves a little bit more available, that when you aren't available, it does make it seem like maybe you're clamming up a little bit and hoping it goes away, that you don't care. At least that could be the perception. So a couple of you did say that Wendy's could have handled this better for sure. There was also really very much a mixed bag on whether or not you felt like the Fort Worth Police Department was appropriate in their response on Twitter about this initial incident. That they did, some of you did agree that certainly they were denied service, and that is discrimination, and that because this is discrimination, according to a lot of you, that perhaps they had the right to call out this company for not serving police officers. Along with that, on the other end of this, a couple of you did point out, though, that it could be perceived at least as an abuse of power on the part of the police department, that because this Twitter is run by a government entity which is funded by public dollars, that perhaps this is not the most appropriate situation where a public entity is calling out a private company, being Wendy's, for this incident. Some of you did feel like at least the perception could be negative in that way and improper. And so in that case, it was very much a mixed bag. What I will say is that certainly I did read an article when this first came out from a local columnist in the area who did point out that he had some issue with, even though he didn't necessarily agree with the denial of service, he had some issue with kind of this strange blurring of the lines between public and private, that he felt like it really wasn't the place of a government entity to be kind of making these calls out, essentially using public dollars to do so. So that is certainly something to consider. Even if you disagree with what happened, certainly you have to think about how could the Fort Worth Police Department's response be perceived. So that being said, I think that's all I've got for you this week. And it looks like Norton's getting a little restless here behind my shoulder. Aren't you getting a little restless there? So I think we're gonna sign off for the week. But as you finish up your press kits, I encourage you to certainly stay in touch with me. Let me know if you have any issues. If you're not getting in contact with your partner, let me know ASAP if there's an issue, because I really can't help you after the fact if you aren't able to let me know now that you haven't been able to make contact or make it regularly with your partner to finish this. It can be perceived, unfortunately, that you just kind of waited till last minute. So keep me in the loop if there are issues. I'm much more able to help you now than I could be at the very end. Otherwise, best of luck as you're finishing up this semester. I've so enjoyed seeing your comments, and I will be around if you have questions or comments moving forward this last week of wrapping up. Thanks so much, and have a great week from Norton and Dr. Freeman. Thanks.